She heard him say the words through a cracked door on her very first night. "I could never love someone who works for me. Lines must exist." Amara Bennett thought she understood her place in the world, invisible, safe, forgotten. But when she walked into that glittering gala in a borrowed black dress, the heir who swore he'd never see her suddenly couldn't look away. His fiancée noticed. And what happened next would shatter reputations, expose lies, and force a man who'd built his entire life on appearances to make an impossible choice in front of cameras, investors, and the world. Some said he was a fool. Others said she was playing a dangerous game. But no one, not even Amara herself, expected what he would sacrifice when the truth finally came to light. Subscribe right now and comment below if you've ever been underestimated because of who you are, because this story proves that real power isn't about titles or status. It's about having the courage to be seen. The taxi pulled away from the tall iron gates. Amara Bennett stood alone on the gravel driveway. Her suitcase felt heavy in her hand. The Dalton estate rose before her like something from a magazine. 3 stories of cream-colored stone, windows that caught the late afternoon sun and threw it back in gold, gardens that rolled toward the cliffs and the ocean beyond. She took a breath. The salt air filled her lungs. This was it. Her new job, her fresh start. The front door opened. A woman in a grey dress and sensible shoes stepped out. Her silver hair was pulled back tight. Her face was kind, but serious. "Miss Bennett?" "Yes, ma'am." Amara walked forward, extending her hand. "Please call me Amara." The woman's handshake was firm. "Mrs. Clark, head housekeeper." "Welcome." She glanced at the suitcase. "Come, I'll show you around before dinner." Inside, the house was even more beautiful. Marble floors, a staircase that curved up and up, paintings in gold frames. Everything was clean and perfect and expensive. Amara followed Mrs. Clark through hallways that smelled like lemon polish and fresh flowers. "Kitchen hours are 6 to 9, Mrs. Clark said. Her voice echoed slightly. "You'll help with light meal prep and service. Mrs. Dalton has a nurse who handles all medications. Your focus is her comfort and general household support." "I understand." Mrs. Clark stopped at a doorway. "Mr. Dalton's office. Never disturb him when the door is closed. He values his privacy." Amara nodded. She'd learned long ago that rich families had rules, invisible lines you couldn't cross. They climbed a narrow staircase to the 3rd floor. Mrs. Clark opened a door. "Your room." It was small. A single bed with a white quilt, a dresser, a window that looked out over the gardens. Amara had lived in smaller places. This would do just fine. "Unpack," Mrs. Clark said. "Mrs. Dalton asked to meet you before sunset. I'll come get you in 20 minutes. "Thank you." When the door closed, Amara sat on the bed. The springs squeaked a little. She pulled out her phone and sent a quick text to her sister. "Made it. The place is gorgeous. I'll be okay." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Her sister was probably at work. Amara set the phone down and opened her suitcase. She hung her 2 uniforms in the small closet, folded her jeans and sweaters into the dresser, placed her worn copy of Maya Angelou poems on the nightstand. Be kind, be invisible, be safe. That was the plan. Margaret Dalton sat in a wicker chair on the back terrace. A blanket covered her lap, even though the evening was warm. Her hair was silver blonde. Her eyes were pale blue and tired but sharp. Mrs. Clark made introductions. Then she left them alone. "Sit, please." Margaret gestured to the chair beside her. "I don't bite." Amara sat. She folded her hands in her lap. Margaret studied her for a moment. "You're younger than I expected." "I'm 26, ma'am. And you've done this work before?" "Yes, ma'am. 3 years with a family in Charleston, 2 years before that with a couple in Atlanta." "Why did you leave Charleston?" Amara hesitated. The truth was complicated. The husband had made comments that made her skin crawl. The wife had pretended not to notice. So Amara had given notice and moved north, looking for something better. "It was time for a change," she said carefully. Margaret's eyes softened. "Fair enough. We all have our reasons." She adjusted the blanket. "Mrs. Clark tells me you enjoy poetry." "I do. Would you read to me? My eyes tire easily these days." Amara blinked. "Now? Unless you have somewhere else to be." A smile tugged at Amara's mouth. "I'll go get my book." She ran upstairs and grabbed the Angelou collection. When she returned, the sun was lower. The sky had turned pink and orange. Margaret had closed her eyes. "Ma'am? I'm awake, just resting." Margaret opened one eye. "What will you read?" Amara flipped through the pages. She found one of her favorites. "This one is called Still I Rise." She read slowly. "Let each word land." Margaret listened with her eyes closed and a faint smile on her lips. When Amara finished, the older woman sighed. "Beautiful," Margaret murmured. "Thank you." "You're welcome. I think we'll get along just fine, Amara." Something warm bloomed in Amara's chest. Maybe this place would be different. Maybe she'd finally found somewhere she could stay. On her way back inside, Amara passed a door that was slightly open. Light spilled into the hallway. She heard a man's voice, deep and confident. She knew she should keep walking. Mrs. Clark had been clear about Mr. Dalton's privacy, but something made her pause. "I don't care what the tabloids say," the man said. He sounded annoyed. "Lydia and I are solid. The engagement stands." Silence. He must be on the phone. "No, Miles. Listen, I could never love someone who works for me. Lines must exist. You can't build a future on that kind of imbalance." Amara's stomach dropped. "Staff are staff," he continued. "I respect them. I pay them well. But romantic involvement, that's asking for disaster." She forced herself to move. Her feet carried her down the hallway, up the stairs to her small room. She closed the door and leaned against it. Her hands were shaking. It shouldn't matter. He was her employer, nothing more. She wasn't here to fall in love. She was here to work, to save money, to build a life. But the words stung anyway. "I could never love someone who works for me." She'd heard variations of that her whole life, from people who looked at her uniform and decided they knew everything about her, people who thought she was less because she cleaned their floors and folded their sheets. Amara walked to the window. The ocean stretched dark and endless beyond the cliffs. Waves crashed against the rocks. She opened her journal, a cheap notebook with a cracked spine. She wrote in careful letters, "Be kind, be invisible, be safe." Then she closed it and got ready for bed. Morning came early. Amara woke to her alarm at 5:30. She dressed in her uniform, a simple grey dress and white apron, and went downstairs. The kitchen was huge, stainless steel everywhere. Mrs. Clark was already there, brewing coffee. "Good morning." The housekeeper handed her a list. "Mrs. Dalton takes her tea at 7, chamomile with honey. The nurse handles all medications, so just focus on making her comfortable." "Got it." Amara moved through the kitchen, learning where things were. The tea was in a cabinet by the window. The honey was local from a farm down the coast. She prepared everything carefully. At 7, she carried the tray upstairs. Margaret was awake, sitting up in bed with reading glasses perched on her nose. "Good morning, dear." "Good morning, Mum. How did you sleep?" "Well enough." Margaret took the tea. "Sit for a moment." Amara sat on the edge of a chair. She wasn't sure if she should, but Margaret seemed lonely. "Do you have family nearby?" Margaret asked. "A sister in Virginia. My parents passed a few years ago." "I'm sorry." "Thank you." Margaret sipped her tea. "My son can be difficult, but he means well. He's under a lot of pressure." Amara nodded. She didn't mention what she'd overheard. A knock at the door interrupted them. The nurse entered, a cheerful woman in scrubs. "Morning, Mrs. Dalton. Ready for your vitals?" Amara took that as her cue to leave. By mid-morning, the house was buzzing. A sleek black car pulled up to the front. A woman stepped out, tall, blonde, wearing a dress that probably cost more than Amara made in 6 months. "That's Miss Whitmore," Mrs. Clark said quietly. "Mr. Dalton's fiancée." Amara watched from the kitchen window. The woman, Lydia, carried a garment bag and walked like she owned the place. "She comes often?" Amara asked. "More than I'd like." Mrs. Clark's mouth was a thin line. Lydia swept into the house. She barely glanced at the staff. A younger maid hurried to take the garment bag. Lydia snapped her fingers. "Careful with that. It's custom." The maid flinched. Amara stepped forward. "Here, let me help." She smiled at the younger girl. "2 hands are better than 1, right?" The maid looked grateful. Together they carried the bag upstairs. Behind them, Lydia was already calling for Ethan. Amara didn't see him until evening. She was in the library, dusting shelves, when the door opened. He walked in without noticing her. Tall, dark hair, a jawline that could cut glass. He wore slacks and a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked tired. He grabbed a book from a low shelf and started to leave. Then he saw her. His eyes were grey, cool, appraising. "You're new," he said. "Yes, sir, I'm Amara." "Ethan." He didn't offer his hand. "How is my mother?" "She's well. I read to her this morning." Something flickered across his face. "She likes that." "Yes, sir." He looked at her for another moment. Then he nodded and left. Amara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. That evening, she brought Margaret's dinner tray up. The older woman was sitting by the window again, watching the sun set. "Did you meet my son today?" Margaret asked. "Briefly." "And?" Amara set the tray down. "He seems busy." Margaret laughed. "Diplomatic. I like that." She picked up her fork. "He's not always easy, but he has a good heart. It's just buried under a lot of expectations." Amara thought about the words she'd overheard, about lines that must exist. "I'm sure he does," she said quietly. Later, when she passed the study on her way to her room, she saw him through the half-open door. He was sitting at his desk, staring at his computer. His face was tight with stress. For a second, she almost felt sorry for him. Then she remembered, "I could never love someone who works for me." She kept walking. The next morning brought chaos. A courier arrived with a crate marked fragile. Inside was a piece of modern art, twisted metal and glass, that Margaret had commissioned for the foyer. Mr. Reyes, the groundskeeper, helped carry it inside. They were halfway to the marble table when the estate cat, a fat orange thing named Marmalade, darted between their legs. Mr. Reyes stumbled. The crate tilted. A can of touch-up paint someone had left on a side table went flying. It hit the antique vase on the console. Blue paint splattered everywhere. "No, no, no!" Mrs. Clark rushed over. Amara grabbed towels. She dropped to her knees, trying to blot the paint before it dried. Footsteps pounded down the hall. Ethan appeared, still in his pajama pants and a t-shirt. His hair was messy. He looked almost human. "What happened?" "Accident," Mrs. Clark said grimly. "The vase is a family heirloom. It's fine." Ethan knelt beside Amara. "Do we have mineral spirits?" "Under the sink," Amara said. They worked side by side. Her shoulder brushed his. He smelled like coffee and soap. Up close, she could see he had a small scar above his left eyebrow. "Marmalade strikes again," he muttered. Despite everything, Amara laughed. "He's got timing." Ethan glanced at her. The corner of his mouth twitched. "He's a menace." They scrubbed the vase together. The paint came off slowly. Their hands moved in careful rhythm. When they finally sat back, the vase looked almost normal. "Thank you," Ethan said. He met her eyes. "You're good in a crisis." "Years of practice." He smiled. A real smile this time. It changed his whole face. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and the smile disappeared. "I have to take this." He stood, brushing off his knees. "Thanks again." He walked away, already talking in that cold, professional voice she'd heard before. Amara stayed on the floor. Her heart was beating too fast. "Stop it," she told herself. "He's your boss, that's all." 2 days later, Mrs. Clark called a staff meeting. "The Whitmore Foundation Gala is Saturday," she announced. "The hotel needs extra servers. It's optional and paid. Anyone interested?" Amara's hand went up. She needed the money. Every dollar brought her closer to her dream, a place of her own someday. Maybe even college courses. Mrs. Clark nodded. "I'll put you down." That afternoon, Margaret caught her in the hallway. "I heard you're working the gala." "Yes, ma'am." "Good." Margaret patted her hand. "Wear something that feels like you. You'll be beautiful." Amara felt her cheeks warm. "Thank you. And don't let anyone make you feel small. You're worth 10 of those socialites." Before Amara could respond, footsteps approached. Ethan appeared around the corner. He stopped when he saw them. "Everything okay?" "Fine," Margaret said brightly. "Just chatting." The air felt heavy. Amara excused herself quickly. Behind her she heard Margaret say, "That girl is special, Ethan." His response was too quiet to hear. The night before the gala, Amara sat on her bed. She'd borrowed a dress from another maid. Simple black, knee-length, nothing fancy. She'd saved enough for a pair of decent shoes. She looked at herself in the small mirror above the dresser. She twisted her hair up, then let it fall in soft curls around her shoulders. "You can do this," she told herself. "Walk with your head up. Act like you belong, even if people looked through you, even if he looked through you." She climbed into bed and tried to sleep. The Harborview Hotel was enormous, glass and steel, perched on the edge of the bay. Amara arrived through the service entrance with the other staff. The corridors hummed with energy. Everyone moved with purpose. She picked up her tray. Another server, a girl named Dana, grinned at her. "Ready for this circus?" "As ready as I'll ever be." "Just smile and nod." Rich people love that. Amara adjusted her name tag. She took a deep breath. Through the swinging doors she could hear music, string quartet, the low murmur of voices and laughter. "Here we go," Dana said. They pushed through together. The ballroom was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, tables draped in white silk, flowers everywhere, white roses and something purple she didn't recognize, men in tuxedos, women in gowns that sparkled. Amara wove between guests with her tray of champagne. She kept her expression pleasant and blank. This was what she was good at, being invisible, moving through spaces without disturbing them. She glimpsed Ethan across the room. He stood with Lydia, both of them perfect. Cameras flashed. Lydia's hand rested possessively on his arm. He smiled the smile Amara had seen him practice in mirrors. She turned away. Stay focused. Do your job. But something made her look back, and that's when their eyes met. Ethan had been trapped in the same conversation for 10 minutes, an investor droning on about market projections. Lydia beside him playing the perfect fiancée. He was exhausted. These events drained him, all the performance, the careful words, the fake smiles. He glanced up, searching for an escape route. That's when he saw her. For a second he didn't recognize her, just saw a beautiful woman in a simple black dress, dark curls framing her face, graceful, composed. Then she turned and he realized. Amara. His chest tightened. She looked different, not in the uniform, not moving quietly through the background. She looked like she belonged here, more than most of these people did. Ethan? The investor was waiting for a response. Sorry. Ethan forced his attention back. Could you repeat that? But his gaze kept drifting. Amara moved through the crowd like water. She didn't see him watching. Or maybe she did and was ignoring him. Beside him, Lydia's hand tightened on his arm. Darling, she said sweetly, you seem distracted. Just tired. Her eyes were sharp. She followed his gaze. Her smile didn't falter, but something cold flickered in her expression. I see. Ethan didn't respond. Across the room, Amara retreated to the service corridor. He watched her lean against the wall, close her eyes, steady herself. Then she lifted her chin and walked back into the ballroom. Something in his chest cracked open. Amara made it through the first hour. Then Lydia found her. It happened at the champagne tower. Amara was refilling her tray when Lydia appeared beside her. She wore red, rubies at her throat. Her smile was all teeth. Well, Lydia said. Her voice carried. Don't you clean up nicely? Amara kept her expression neutral. Thank you, ma'am. The costume suits you. Playing dress-up for the evening? Nearby guests turned to look. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Amara's fingers tightened on her tray. She could feel eyes on her, judgments forming. I'm just here to work, she said quietly. Of course you are. Lydia's smile widened. That's what you people do best, isn't it? The words hung in the air. Amara's heart pounded. She wanted to walk away, wanted to disappear, but she wouldn't give Lydia the satisfaction. Yes, ma'am, she said, meeting Lydia's eyes. I work hard. I'm proud of that. For a second, Lydia's mask slipped. Surprise flickered across her face. Then Ethan was there. He materialized between them. His face was tight. Lydia, he said. His voice was low, warning. Lydia laughed. A bright, false sound. Darling, we were just chatting. He ignored her, turned to Amara. Are you all right? The question surprised her. The concern in his eyes surprised her more. I'm fine, she managed. You shouldn't. He stopped, looked around at the watching faces. The phone's recording. I shouldn't have to deal with this. A ripple went through the crowd. Whispers. Lydia's smile was frozen in place. Ethan, don't be dramatic. But he wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at Amara, like she was the only person in the room. Amara's breath caught. Then reality slammed back. This was wrong. All of it. She was staff. He was engaged. This would only end badly. Excuse me, she said. She set down her tray. I'll work in back. She walked away. Fast but not running. Head up, eyes forward. In the service hallway, she finally let herself lean against the cool tile. Her hands were shaking. Dana appeared beside her. You okay? Yeah. Amara exhaled. Yeah, I'm fine. That woman is a piece of work. I just need a minute. Dana squeezed her shoulder and left. Amara closed her eyes. She thought about quitting, packing her bag tonight, finding somewhere else. But Margaret's face rose in her mind. The way the older woman had said, "You're worth 10 of those socialites." She straightened, smoothed her dress, lifted her chin. She chose dignity, not tears. She went back inside. Morning light crept through Amara's window. She hadn't slept much. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the ballroom. Lydia's sharp smile, the staring faces, Ethan's grey eyes, worried and searching. She dressed in her uniform, pulled her hair back, went downstairs. Mrs. Clark was already in the kitchen making coffee. She took one look at Amara's face and sighed. I heard what happened. News travels fast. Always does. Mrs. Clark poured 2 cups, handed one to Amara. Miss Whitmore is poison. Always has been. Amara wrapped her hands around the warm mug. It doesn't matter. It does to him. Mrs. Clark, I've worked for this family for 15 years. I've never seen Mr. Dalton look at anyone the way he looked at you last night. Amara's stomach flipped. He's engaged. For now. Mrs. Clark's tone was dry. Just don't close doors yet, all right? Before Amara could respond, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Ethan appeared in the doorway. He looked like he hadn't slept either. His hair was messy. He'd thrown on jeans and a wrinkled shirt. Mrs. Clark glanced between them. I'll check on the laundry. She left, taking her coffee with her. Silence filled the kitchen. I need to bring your mother's tea up, Amara said finally. Wait. Ethan stepped closer. Please. She forced herself to meet his eyes. I'm sorry, he said. The words came out rough. I should have stopped Lydia sooner. I should have, I don't know, done better. You didn't do anything wrong. I hesitated. I cared too much about appearances. He ran a hand through his hair. That's not an excuse. You deserved better. Amara studied him. He looked genuinely upset. Like this had kept him up all night too. Thank you, she said quietly, for apologizing. Is there anything I can do? No. She picked up the tea tray. We both just need to keep doing our jobs. She walked past him. She could feel him watching her go. In the hallway she paused, closed her eyes, steadied her breathing. Lines must exist, he'd said that first night. She needed to remember that. Margaret was sitting up in bed when Amara entered. The older woman took one look at her face and frowned. What happened? Nothing, Ma'am. Amara. She set the tray down. There was an incident at the gala. It's fine. With my son. With his fiancée. Margaret's expression darkened. That girl. I've never understood what he sees in her. She patted the edge of the bed. Sit. Tell me. So Amara told her. Not everything. Just the basics. Lydia's comments. The stares. Margaret listened with pressed lips. When Amara finished, the older woman took her hand. I'm sorry you were treated that way. It's okay. It's not okay. And it's not how this family should behave. Margaret squeezed her fingers. You're a good person, Amara. Don't let anyone make you feel less than that. Amara's throat tightened. Thank you. Now, Margaret smiled. Will you help me with my garden walk? The nurse says I need exercise. And frankly, I'd rather have your company. I'd love to. They spent the morning among the hydrangeas. Margaret pointed out different varieties, told stories about planting them when Ethan was young, how he'd helped dig holes and gotten dirt everywhere. He was a sweet child, Margaret said, before the world got to him. From the terrace above, Amara felt eyes on her. She glanced up. Ethan stood at the railing watching them. His expression was soft, almost wistful. Their eyes met for a moment. Then he turned and went inside. He's lost, Margaret said quietly. But I think you might help him find his way. Amara didn't know how to respond to that. That afternoon, the sky turned dark. Thunder rumbled in the distance. By 3 o'clock, rain was hammering the windows. Then the lights flickered and died. Generator should kick in, Mrs. Clark muttered. She was elbow-deep in bread dough. But the guest wing might be out. It's on a different circuit. The groundskeeper, Mr. Reyes, appeared in the kitchen doorway. Need help checking the breakers? Please. I'll help too, Ethan said. Everyone turned. He stood in the hallway, holding a flashlight. Mr. Reyes blinked. Sir, we can handle... I know where the main panel is. Ethan's tone was firm. Let's go. Amara grabbed her own flashlight and followed. The breaker panel was in the basement, a dusty, cluttered space that smelled like old stone and salt water. Mr. Reyes flipped switches. Nothing happened. Might be the external connection, he said. Storm probably knocked a branch onto the line. I'll check outside, Ethan offered. In this weather, sir, that's not... I'll be fine. Mr. Reyes looked at Amara. She shrugged. 20 minutes later, they were all drenched. Ethan had insisted on helping clear a fallen branch from the power line. He'd fumbled with the tools, dropped things, got tangled in his own raincoat. Mr. Reyes had laughed. A real, belly-deep laugh. You're useless with your hands, boss. I'm better with spreadsheets, Ethan admitted. Finally, the power clicked back on. Lights blazed in the windows above them. Back in the basement, Amara showed Ethan how to reset the guest wing circuit. He watched her hands as she explained each step. Where did you learn this? He asked. My dad. He was a maintenance supervisor at a hotel. She smiled at the memory. He taught me that knowing how things work makes you powerful. That's good advice. Their eyes met. Water dripped from his hair. He looked younger like this, less polished, more real. Thank you. he said, "for being patient with me. You're welcome." Something passed between them, something warm and dangerous. Amara stepped back. "I should change, before I catch a cold." She left him standing in the basement with his flashlight still on. That evening, Lydia called. Amara only knew because she overheard Ethan on the terrace, pacing back and forth. "It's not that simple, Lydia." His voice was sharp with frustration. "No, I don't care what the tabloids are saying." Pause. "I helped with a power outage. That's all." Longer pause. "I'm hanging up now." He ended the call, stood gripping the railing. His shoulders were tight with tension. Amara backed away before he could see her. The next morning, Lydia arrived unannounced. Amara was in the linen closet, counting sheets, when she heard heels clicking on the marble floor. She stayed quiet, kept working. The closet door opened. Lydia stood there in a cream suit, diamonds in her ears. Her smile was cold and sharp. "There you are." Amara straightened. "Can I help you with something, ma'am?" "I wanted a word, privately." Lydia stepped inside and closed the door behind her. The small space felt suddenly suffocating. "I'm working. This won't take long." Lydia examined her manicured nails. "I'm going to be very clear. You need to leave." Amara's heart kicked. "Excuse me? This position, this house. You're not welcome here anymore. Mrs. Dalton hired me. Mrs. Dalton won't be here forever." Lydia's voice was silk over steel. "And when she's gone, who do you think will be running this household? Certainly not the help." Amara forced herself to stay calm. "I haven't done anything wrong. You exist. That's enough." Lydia tilted her head. "I have connections in every hotel and event space within 100 miles. One word from me, and you'll never work in this area again. You'll be blacklisted." The threat hung in the air. Amara thought about her savings, her plans, the sister who depended on her. "I'll resign," she heard herself say. "At the end of the week." Lydia's smile widened. "Smart girl." She left, her heels clicking away down the hall. Amara leaned against the shelves. Her hands were shaking. She felt small and powerless and furious all at once. The closet door opened again. Mrs. Clark stood there, face pale. "I heard," she said. "The last part, anyway. I have to go." "You absolutely do not." Mrs. Clark's voice was fierce. "That woman has no authority here. None. She can destroy my career. Let her try." Mrs. Clark took Amara's shoulders. "Don't you dare let her win." But Amara shook her head. She'd learned long ago that people like Lydia always won. They had power, money, connections. People like Amara just survived. That afternoon, Margaret had a dizzy spell. Not serious, the nurse said. Just fatigue. But it scared everyone. Amara sat with her while the nurse checked vitals and adjusted medications. She brought cool cloths, held Margaret's hand. "Don't fuss," Margaret said weakly. "I'm fine." "You're allowed to not be fine sometimes." Margaret smiled. "You're kind, don't lose that." When the nurse finished, Margaret asked Amara to stay. "I heard you're thinking of leaving." Amara froze. "How? This house has ears." Margaret's eyes were sad. "Is it because of Lydia?" Amara didn't answer. Didn't need to. "I'm having a garden party next Saturday," Margaret said. "Nothing big, just a few friends. I've been planning it for months." She reached for Amara's hand. "Please don't leave before then. I need you here." "Ma'am, please." The word was so simple, so vulnerable. Amara thought about saying no, about protecting herself, but Margaret's eyes were pleading. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll stay through the party. Thank you, dear." Later, Ethan found her in the kitchen. She was arranging a dinner tray for Margaret. He carried a small box. "Ginger biscuits, my mother's favorite." He set them on the counter. "To say thank you for staying with her earlier. Just doing my job." "It's more than that." He leaned against the counter. "You care about her, she knows it." Amara added the biscuits to the tray. "Your mother is a good person." "She is." Pause. "I'm sorry about Lydia. Whatever she said to you." Amara's hands stilled. "You know about that. Mrs. Clark may have mentioned it." His jaw was tight. "What did she threaten?" "It doesn't matter." "It does to me." She finally looked at him, really looked at him. He seemed genuinely angry. Not at her, at Lydia. "Why do you care?" The question came out before she could stop it. He stared at her for a long moment. Something flickered in his eyes, something raw and honest. "I don't know," he said quietly, "but I do." The air between them felt electric. Amara picked up the tray. "I should go." She left before he could say anything else. The next morning, Miles Carter showed up. Amara first saw him from the window. a tall man in expensive casual clothes, laughing as he walked up the driveway with Ethan. They headed toward the dock where a sailboat was moored. "That's Mr. Carter," Mrs. Clark said. "Mr. Dalton's business partner and oldest friend. He'll be here for lunch." Miles was charming at the table. He told jokes, complimented the food, asked Mrs. Clark about her grandson. But his eyes were sharp. He watched everything, including the way Ethan's gaze kept drifting toward Amara as she served. After lunch, she passed the library and heard voices. The door was ajar. "So," Miles' tone was teasing. "Are you in love with your maid?" Ethan choked. "What? No, that's because you spent the entire meal staring at her." Silence. "Ethan, it's complicated. When is it not?" Miles sighed. "Look, I'll be honest. If you pursue this, the PR fallout will be brutal. Lydia's family has deep pockets and long memories. Investors might get nervous. I know. But," Miles paused, "I've known you for 15 years. I've never seen you look at anyone the way you look at her, including your fiancée." More silence. "Just think about what you're willing to risk," Miles said, "and what you're willing to lose." Amara hurried away before she could hear more. That evening she was reshelving books in the library when Ethan found her. "Need help?" he asked. "I'm almost done." He picked up a stack anyway. They worked in comfortable silence for a few minutes. "My mother mentioned you like poetry," he said. "I do. What else do you like?" The question surprised her. "Why do you want to know?" "Because," he looked at her, "I realized I don't know anything about you, and I'd like to." Amara's heart stuttered. "Mr. Dalton." "Ethan, please." She set down the books. "This isn't a good idea. I know." "Your mother accidentally told me you used to write poetry," she said, changing the subject. "When you were a teenager." His face went red. "She didn't." "She did." Amara couldn't help smiling. "She said they were very earnest and full of ocean metaphors." "Oh, God." He covered his face. "That's humiliating." "It's sweet." He peeked at her through his fingers. "You're never going to let me live this down, are you?" "Probably not." They both laughed. Real laughter. The tension between them shifted into something warmer. Amara felt herself relaxing. This was dangerous. She knew it. But for just a moment, it felt good. The next evening, the nurse insisted both Ethan and Amara take a break. Margaret was napping peacefully. The house was quiet. "Go walk," the nurse said. "Both of you. Get some air." Ethan looked at Amara. "Want to see the cliff path?" She knew she should say no. "Okay," she said instead. They walked in silence at first. The path wound through tall grass and wildflowers. The ocean stretched endless and blue. Seabirds called overhead. "I need to tell you something," Ethan said finally. "That first night you arrived, you overheard me on the phone." Amara stopped walking. "How did you know?" "Mrs. Clark mentioned you passed my office around that time, and the way you've been keeping distance." He faced her. "I said I could never love someone who works for me. Yes, I was wrong." The words came out fierce. "I was arrogant and stupid and wrong. Ethan, I haven't stopped thinking about you since the gala. Since before the gala, if I'm honest." He took a step closer. "The way you handled Lydia, the way you care for my mother, the way you don't let anyone make you small, you're incredible." Her breath caught. "You're engaged." "I know." He looked pained. "I know. And that's not fair to you. But I needed you to know. I'm not the man I was when you arrived. You changed something in me." Amara's heart was racing. "This is crazy." "I know that too." They stared at each other. The wind pulled at her hair. Salt air filled her lungs. "The thing you overheard," she said quietly. "It hurt, because I've heard versions of that my whole life, from people who think I'm less because of what I do, because of who I am. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I need you to understand something." She met his eyes. "I won't be anyone's secret. I won't be hidden or ashamed. If this, whatever this is, if it's real, it has to be honest, no matter what it costs." "I understand." "Do you? Because right now you have everything. A perfect fiancé, a perfect reputation. Choosing me means losing all of that. Then I'll lose it." His voice was steady, raw. "Because you're worth more than all of it." The sun was setting. Gold and pink light painted the sky. The moment felt suspended. Ethan reached for her hand, slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers laced with hers, warm and solid and real. "I can't promise this will be easy," he said, "but I can promise I'll be honest, and I'll choose you, every time." Amara looked at their joined hands, then at his face, the vulnerability there, the hope. She'd built walls to survive, But maybe it was time to risk them. She rose on her toes and kissed him. It was soft, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. His hand came up to cup her face, gentle, reverent. When they pulled back, both were breathing hard. "We go slow," Amara said. "We do this right. Whatever you need. And you end things with Lydia, properly, before anything else happens." "I will. Tomorrow." They stood on the cliff path as the sun sank into the ocean. Two people taking a terrifying, beautiful leap into the unknown. Ethan met Lydia at her club the next morning, a pristine place full of white tablecloths and people who spoke in hushed tones. Lydia was already there, sipping mimosa. She smiled when she saw him. "Darling, this is a nice surprise." He sat down. "We need to talk." Her smile faltered. "That sounds ominous." "I can't marry you." The words landed like stones. Lydia set down her glass very carefully. "Excuse me? I'm sorry, I know this is sudden, but it wouldn't be fair to either of us to keep pretending." "Pretending?" Her voice was ice. "We've been engaged for 8 months. We have venues booked, invitations designed. I know, and I'll take responsibility for all of it, financially and publicly. This is about her." Lydia's eyes narrowed. "The maid." Ethan didn't flinch. "This is about me, about being honest, about not building a marriage on appearances. You're throwing away everything for a story that won't hold." Lydia's perfect composure was cracking. "Do you understand what you're doing? My family will destroy you. The press will crucify you." "Maybe." He met her eyes. "But I'd rather face that than spend my life lying." Lydia stared at him. For a moment he saw past the polish, saw the hurt and fear underneath. "I did care about you," he said quietly. "I'm sorry I couldn't love you the way you deserved." "Get out," she whispered. He stood, left his credit card on the table, walked away. In his car, his hands shook, but his chest felt lighter than it had in years. Amara was setting the table for Margaret's lunch when Ethan returned. He looked exhausted, but his eyes were clear. "It's done," he said quietly. Her breath caught. "How did she take it?" "About as well as expected." He ran a hand through his hair. "She's hurt, angry. I don't blame her." "Ethan, I'm not having second thoughts." He stepped closer. "I meant what I said. I choose you." Amara wanted to touch him, kiss him, but they were standing in the dining room, where anyone could walk in. "We need to be careful," she said. "I know." He smiled, soft and real. "But we're doing this. Together." That afternoon, a delivery truck showed up. The driver looked confused. I have 20 lemon pies for the Dalton estate?" Mrs. Clark blinked. 20? Says here you ordered them for an event? That's next week. And we ordered 2. The driver shrugged. "System must have glitched. Where do you want them?" Soon the kitchen was overflowing with lemon meringue pies. Staff gathered, laughing. "What are we supposed to do with all these?" Mr. Reyes asked. "Eat them, obviously." Margaret appeared in the doorway, leaning on her cane. Her eyes sparkled. "Everyone, taste test now." It turned into a party. Staff grabbed forks and plates. Someone turned on music. Margaret cackled as Mrs. Clark got meringue on her nose. Ethan and Amara ended up at the counter, frosting a pie together. Their hands kept brushing. Every touch felt electric. "This is ridiculous," Amara said, laughing as meringue dripped onto the floor. "Best mistake ever," Ethan replied. Their eyes met, held. Around them, people were laughing and joking, but in that moment it was just the two of them, connected by something fragile and new and precious. That evening, they sat on the back steps. The sun was setting. The ocean was calm. "We should tell my mother," Ethan said. "After her party, give her something to look forward to without the stress." "You think she'll approve?" "Are you kidding? She loves you." He took her hand. "She told me weeks ago that you were special. I should have listened." Amara leaned her head on his shoulder. "This is terrifying." "I know, but good." "Yeah." He kissed the top of her head. "Really good." They sat there as stars appeared, planning a future they could hardly believe in, hoping it would be enough, hoping love would be enough. Amara woke to her phone buzzing. It was barely dawn. She fumbled for it, squinting at the screen. 3 missed calls from Mrs. Clark. 2 text messages. "Call me. Now." Her stomach dropped. She dialed. "Mrs." Clark answered on the first ring. "Have you seen it?" "Seen what?" "Check your email. I'm forwarding you the link." Amara's hands shook as she opened her inbox, clicked the link. A gossip blog loaded. The headline made her feel sick. "Dalton heir's secret affair. Mysterious payments to estate staff raise questions below." It was a photo. Grainy but clear enough. Ethan handing her something. It looked like cash. But it wasn't. It had been the ginger biscuits, the box. The angle made it look like money changing hands. The article was full of implications, suggestions, nothing outright accusatory, but enough to plant seeds. Amara's vision blurred. "It's fake," Mrs. Clark said. "Anyone with eyes can see that photo is manipulated." "It doesn't matter." Amara's voice came out flat. "People will believe what they want to believe." She scrolled through the comments. They were brutal. Strangers calling her names, questioning her character, some defending her. Most not. There was a knock at her door. "I have to go," she told Mrs. Clark. Ethan stood in the hallway. His hair was a mess. His eyes were wild. "You saw it," he said. "Yes. It's Lydia. It has to be. The timing, it doesn't matter who did it." Amara's voice was steady even though she was shaking inside. "The damage is done. We'll fix it. I'll release a statement. You'll make it worse." She looked at him. Really looked at him. "This is what I was afraid of. This is why I said we had to be careful. Amara, I need to pack." His face went pale. "No, don't. Your mother's party is tomorrow. I promised I'd stay through it." Her throat was tight. "After that I'm leaving. Please, don't let them win. They already won." She stepped back into her room. "I'm sorry, Ethan, I really am." She closed the door before she could see his face crumble. Mrs. Clark found her an hour later. Amara was folding clothes with mechanical precision. Her suitcase was open on the bed. "You're really leaving?" "After the party, yes." Mrs. Clark sat on the edge of the bed. "That woman is poison. She did this to hurt you both." "I know." Amara's hand stilled. "But knowing that doesn't change anything. My face is on a gossip site. My reputation is being shredded by strangers. Even if we prove the photo was manipulated, some of this will stick. It always does. So you run." The words stung. "I survive." "By giving up?" Amara finally looked at her. "What else am I supposed to do? Fight back? I don't have lawyers. I don't have money. I'm just a maid who made the mistake of falling for her employer." Mrs. Clark's expression softened. "You're not just anything, and neither is what you two have. It doesn't matter. Not in the real world. Then change the world." Amara laughed. It came out bitter. "I'm not that brave." "Yes, you are." Mrs. Clark squeezed her hand. "But I can't make you see it. Stay through the party. Keep your promise to Mrs. Dalton, then decide." After she left, Amara sat alone in her small room. She thought about her father, how he'd taught her to fix things, to understand how they worked so she could be powerful. But he'd never taught her how to fix something like this. Ethan found her that afternoon. She was in the greenhouse, watering Margaret's orchids, trying to keep busy, trying not to think. "Can we talk?" His voice was careful, gentle. She set down the watering can. "Okay. I ended things with Lydia before any of this. I swear, I didn't leak that photo." "I believe you." "Then why are you leaving?" Amara turned to face him. "Because this is exactly what I was afraid of. The moment we stopped hiding, everything fell apart. My face is online. People I've never met are calling me terrible things, and it's only going to get worse. We can fight this." "How?" Her voice rose. "You don't understand what it's like. You have money, connections, a name that protects you. I have nothing. If this follows me, I can't get another job. I can't build a life. I'm ruined." He flinched like she'd hit him. "So that's it? We just give up?" "I'm not giving up. I'm protecting myself." Her eyes stung. "This was always going to end this way. We were foolish to think otherwise." "I don't believe that." "Then you're more naive than I thought." The words hung between them, harsh and painful. Ethan's jaw tightened. "What do you want me to do? Tell me, anything." "I want you to let me go," her voice cracked. "Please." He stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded, turned, walked away. Amara sank onto a wooden bench, put her head in her hands, and finally let herself cry. The next morning, the estate buzzed with preparation. Margaret's garden party was this afternoon. White tents were being set up. Caterers arrived. Flowers were arranged. Amara helped where she could, kept her head down, avoided Ethan. Margaret noticed. Of course she did. "Come sit with me," the older woman said. They were alone in her room. The nurse had stepped out. Amara sat. "You're leaving," Margaret said. It wasn't a question. "After the party?" "Yes, ma'am." "Because of the gossip?" "Because it's the right thing to do." Margaret was quiet for a moment. "My late husband once told me that the right thing and the safe thing are rarely the same. He said courage is knowing the difference. I'm not brave like you think I am." "You're here, aren't you, after everything?" Margaret took her hand. "That's bravery. Staying when running would be easier. That's the hardest kind." Amara's throat tightened. "I don't want to cause you any more trouble." "Oh, my dear, you haven't caused any trouble. You've brought light back into this house, into my son's life." Margaret's eyes were fierce. "Don't let fear steal that." By noon, guests were arriving, women in pastel dresses, men in linen suits. They wandered through the gardens with champagne glasses, admired the hydrangeas, made polite conversation. Amara moved among them like a ghost, refilling drinks, clearing plates, being invisible again. Then Lydia arrived. She wore white, a flowing dress that made her look angelic. Her smile was bright and sharp. "Margaret," she swept onto the terrace, "I couldn't miss your party. I hope you don't mind that I came." Margaret's expression was cool. Of course not. But her eyes said something different. Lydia moved through the crowd like she owned it. She laughed at jokes, touched arms, and made pointed comments. "Such a lovely party," she said to a group near the rose garden, "though I'm surprised the staff is so visible today." Her gaze landed on Amara, held. Several guests turned to look, whispered. Amara felt her face heat. She started to walk away, but Mrs. Clark stepped up beside her. "Hold your head up," the older woman murmured. "Don't give her the satisfaction." So Amara stayed, chin lifted, eyes forward. Ethan appeared on the terrace. He'd been inside taking a phone call. He took one look at the scene, Lydia holding court, guests staring at Amara, and his expression went cold. He walked to the center of the garden, picked up a spoon and tapped it against a glass. The crowd quieted. "Thank you all for coming," he said. His voice was steady, strong. "My mother wanted to celebrate the garden she spent years building, and to celebrate the people who've helped make this house a home." Lydia's smile was frozen. "I want to address something," Ethan continued. "Many of you have seen recent gossip about my personal life. I want to be clear. My engagement to Lydia Whitmore ended several days ago, amicably. We wish each other well." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lydia's face went white. "I also want to say this," Ethan said, looking directly at Amara. "The people who work in this house deserve respect. Not gossip, not judgment, respect. If anyone has a problem with that, there's the gate." Silence, heavy and shocked. Then Margaret started clapping. Slow, deliberate. Mrs. Clark joined in. Then Mr. Reyes. Then others. Lydia stood frozen for a moment. Then she turned and walked away. Her heels clicked on the stone path. She didn't look back. Amara's eyes were burning. Her chest felt too tight. Ethan had just risked everything. For her. The party wound down as the sun started to set. Guests left in clusters, whispering. Some looked disapproving, others looked intrigued. Amara was clearing glasses when a courier appeared at the kitchen door. "Delivery for the Dalton estate." Mrs. Clark signed for it, a thick manila envelope. She opened it. Her face went pale. "What is it?" Amara asked. Mrs. Clark pulled out papers. Invoices. They had Amara's name on them. Amounts, dates. They looked official. Proof of payments. Mrs. Clark whispered. This is completely fabricated." Amara's hands went numb. "What?" "Someone created fake invoices, made it look like Ethan was paying you for—" She trailed off. "This is fraud." Ethan appeared in the doorway. "What's wrong?" Mrs. Clark handed him the papers. His face went through shock, anger, and cold fury in seconds. "This is Lydia's work. It has to be." "Can you prove it?" Amara asked. Her voice sounded far away. "I recognize this template." Mrs. Clark was studying the papers. "Her shady event planner Lydia uses. He was fired from the hotel last year for exactly this, creating fake invoices. But we can't prove she paid him to do this," Ethan said. Amara felt the walls closing in. This was it. The final nail. Even if they could prove the invoices were fake, the damage was done. Her name was being dragged through the mud, and it would follow her forever. "I have to leave," she said. Her voice was hollow. "Tonight." "Amara, no. This is exactly the ruin I feared." She looked at him, at his desperate, beautiful face. "I'm sorry, Ethan, I really am, but I can't do this anymore." She walked out before he could stop her. In her room, she finished packing. Her suitcase was small. Everything she owned fit inside it. That felt fitting somehow, like proof that she'd never really belonged here. There was a soft knock. She opened the door expecting Mrs. Clark. It was Margaret. "May I come in?" Amara stepped aside. Margaret sat on the bed, looked around the small room. "This is where you've been staying?" "Yes, ma'am. It's too small. You should have said something." "It's fine." Margaret looked at her with sad, wise eyes. "You're leaving because you think it's the only way to protect yourself." "It is." "Maybe." Margaret patted the bed beside her. "But before you go, I want to tell you something. My husband, Ethan's father, He was a good man, but he was terrified of what people thought. He made so many decisions based on appearances, and he died with regrets. Amara sat down. On his deathbed he told me he wished he'd been braver, wished he'd chosen love over reputation more often. Margaret's voice was soft. I don't want that for my son, and I don't want it for you. I'm not brave enough. You're here, aren't you? After everything they've thrown at you? Margaret took her hand. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen. Amara's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared. Love is always scary. That's how you know it matters. They sat together in the small room as the sun set outside the window, and Amara felt something shift inside her, something that felt like courage starting to take root. The next morning, Ethan received an email, an invitation to a private press dinner that evening, a chance to address recent speculation about his personal life and business dealings. He stared at it for a long time. Then he called Miles. I need your help, he said. Name it. There's a press dinner tonight. I'm going to tell the truth. Miles was quiet for a moment. The whole truth? Every word. You know what this means. The fallout? I know. Ethan's voice was steady. But I'm done hiding. I'm done letting other people control the narrative. If I'm going to lose everything, I want it to be because I chose honesty, not because I was too afraid to fight. Miles sighed, then laughed. You've finally grown a spine. I'll be there. Ethan hung up and went to find Amara. She was in Margaret's room saying goodbye. Can I talk to you? He asked from the doorway. She looked at his mother. Margaret nodded. Go. They walked to the library, closed the door. There's a press dinner tonight, Ethan said. I'm going to speak publicly about everything. Ethan, I'm going to tell them I ended my engagement before any of this started. I'm going to explain that the photo was manipulated, that the invoices are fraud. He took a breath. And I'm going to tell them about you. Her heart stopped. What? Not your name, not details, but the truth, that I admire someone in my life, that I won't tolerate slander against my staff, that I choose integrity over alliances. He stepped closer. I'm going to fight for us, even if you don't want me to. This could ruin you. Maybe. But staying silent definitely will, because I'll have to live knowing I was too afraid to stand up for what matters. Amara stared at him. This man who'd been so concerned with appearances, who'd said he could never love someone like her. He'd changed, or maybe she'd helped him become who he was always meant to be. I'm not asking you to be there, he said. I know you need space, but I'm asking you to trust me. One more time, let me do this. She wanted to say no, to protect herself, but Margaret's words echoed in her mind. Love is always scary. That's how you know it matters. Okay, she whispered, but I'm watching from a distance. I need to hear it without the pressure of being there. Fair enough. He reached for her hand, squeezed it gently. Then he left to get ready. Amara found Margaret in the garden. I'm not leaving yet, she said. Not until I see how this plays out. Margaret smiled. Good girl. That evening, Amara sat in a small diner across town. She'd borrowed Mrs. Clark's car, needed to be away from the estate, away from the pressure. She ordered coffee she didn't drink, pulled up the live stream on her phone. The press dinner was elegant. Round tables, soft lighting, journalists in business attire. Ethan sat at the head table with Miles beside him. He looked nervous, but determined. When it was time, he stood, walked to the podium. Thank you for being here, he began. His voice was clear, strong. I want to address recent speculation about my personal and professional life. The room went quiet. Last week, my engagement to Lydia Whitmore ended. This was a mutual decision made before any gossip appeared online. We parted respectfully. I wish her well. Cameras clicked. Phones recorded. Recently, a photo and documents surfaced suggesting improper conduct with staff at my family's estate. I want to be absolutely clear. These materials are fabricated. The photo was manipulated. The invoices are fraudulent. We're working with authorities to identify who created them. More clicking, more recording. Ethan paused, took a breath. But I also want to say something more personal. The room leaned in. For a long time, I've made decisions based on appearances, on what people would think, on maintaining an image. His voice grew stronger. I'm done with that, because I've met someone who showed me that real courage isn't about appearances. It's about being honest, even when it's terrifying. Amara's eyes filled with tears. I won't name names. That's not fair to her. But I want to say this. I admire someone in my life for her kindness, her strength, her grace under pressure, and I will not tolerate slander or gossip about her or any member of my staff. He looked directly at the camera. I'm grateful to the Whitmore family for their past support, But I decline any future business deals that come with conditions about my personal life. I choose integrity, I choose honesty, and I choose to build a life on truth, not alliances. He stepped back from the podium. The room erupted. Questions flew, cameras flashed, but Ethan just smiled, calm, free. Miles clapped him on the back, said something that made Ethan laugh. Amara sat in the diner booth with tears streaming down her face, her phone screen blurred. He'd done it. He'd actually done it. He'd chosen her, publicly, courageously. She paid for her untouched coffee and drove back to the estate. The house was dark when she arrived. Everyone had gone to bed. She parked the car and started toward the servants' entrance. Then she saw him. Ethan stood on the veranda, hands in his pockets, staring out at the ocean. She walked up the steps slowly, her heart pounding. He turned, saw her. His expression flooded with hope and fear. "You came back," he said. "I watched." "And?" Amara stepped closer. "That was the bravest thing I've ever seen." "I meant every word." "I know." She was right in front of him now, close enough to touch. "I'm still scared. This is still terrifying, but I'm tired of running." "So what do we do?" "We try." She reached for his hand. "We build something real, something honest, no matter how hard it gets." "I can do that." His voice was rough with emotion. "I'm not here for apologies anymore. I'm here because I choose you. Every day, for as long as you'll have me." He sank to his knees. Not for spectacle, just pure, humble honesty. "Amara Bennett, will you stay? Will you build a life with me? As my equal, as my partner, as the person who makes me want to be better?" She pulled him to his feet, cupped his face in her hands. "Yes," she whispered. Then she kissed him, long and deep and sure. They held each other on the dark veranda, the ocean steady below, stars scattered above. Two people who'd found each other despite everything that said they shouldn't. And for the first time in a long time, Amara felt like she'd found home. Morning came slowly. Amara woke to sunlight streaming through her window. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The press dinner, Ethan's speech, the kiss on the veranda. She sat up. Her suitcase was still packed in the corner, but she didn't want to run anymore. There was a soft knock at her door. "Come in." Mrs. Clark entered with a tray, tea and toast. Her eyes were suspiciously bright. "Morning," she said. Her voice was gruff. "Thought you might be hungry." "Thank you." Amara took the tray. "Are you crying?" "Allergies." Mrs. Clark sniffed. "Definitely allergies." "Mrs. Clark, you're staying." It wasn't a question. The older woman sat on the edge of the bed. "I'm glad. This house needs you. He needs you." "I need him too," Amara admitted. "That's the scary part. Love is supposed to be scary, means it's real." Mrs. Clark patted her hand. "Now get dressed. Mrs. Dalton is asking for you. And Mr. Dalton has been pacing the kitchen for an hour, waiting for you to wake up." Amara couldn't help smiling. "I'll be down soon." After Mrs. Clark left, she unpacked her suitcase. Slowly, deliberately, hanging her clothes back in the small closet, putting her book back on the nightstand. She was staying, for real this time. The thought filled her with equal parts terror and joy. Margaret was in her usual spot on the terrace. The morning was beautiful. Clear sky, gentle breeze. The ocean sparkled in the distance. "There you are." Margaret's smile was warm. "Sit with me." Amara sat. She folded her hands in her lap. "I saw the speech last night," Margaret said. "Watched it online. My son was very brave." "He was. Because of you." Amara shook her head. "He did that himself. He found the courage because of you. Because you showed him what real strength looks like." Margaret reached for her hand. "I'm grateful for everything you've brought to this house, to my life, to his." "I don't know what happens next," Amara admitted. "This is all so new, so complicated. Then you figure it out together. One day at a time." Margaret squeezed her fingers. "But do me a favor. Anything. Don't give up your own dreams for him. Don't make yourself small to fit into his life. Build something equal, something where you both grow." The words settled deep in Amara's chest. "I'll try. That's all any of us can do." She found Ethan in the kitchen. He was making coffee. Badly. Grounds were everywhere. Mrs. Clark stood in the corner, shaking her head. "You're a disaster," the housekeeper muttered. "I'm nervous," Ethan shot back. Then he saw Amara, his whole face lit up. "Hi." "Hi." She couldn't help smiling. Mrs. Clark made a show of checking her watch. "Oh, look at that. I have things to do." "Elsewhere." She left, closing the door behind her. They stood alone in the sunny kitchen. The air felt electric. "How did you sleep?" Ethan asked. "Good. You?" Terribly. Kept thinking about everything. About you. He set down the coffee pot. I wasn't sure you'd still be here this morning. I wasn't sure either. She walked closer. But I am. I'm glad. They stood facing each other. So much to say. So much that had changed. We need to talk, Amara said, about how this works. About boundaries. I agree. Ethan pulled out a chair for her. They sat at the kitchen table. You first. She took a breath. I don't want special treatment. I'm still an employee here. I still need to do my job. Okay. And I can't live in the servants' quarters while we're whatever we are. The power imbalance is too much. I already thought about that. He leaned forward. There's a guest cottage. On the property but separate. It's been empty for years. We could fix it up for you. Give you your own space. I can't afford same rent you're paying now, which is nothing because room and board is part of your compensation. His voice was gentle. This isn't charity. It's giving you privacy and dignity while we figure out what we're building. Amara considered it. Her own space. Close enough to work. Far enough to have independence. Okay, she said slowly. But I want to be clear. I'm not staying in this job forever. I want to go back to school eventually. Maybe study business management or social work. His face broke into a smile. That's amazing. I'm serious, Ethan. I need my own dreams. My own path. I know. And I support that. Completely. He reached across the table, took her hand. I don't want you to fit into my life. I want us to build a life together, where we're both growing. It won't be easy. Nothing worth having ever is. They sat there holding hands across the old wooden table. Sunlight poured through the windows. Outside, birds sang in the garden. So we're doing this, Amara said. For real, for real. Ethan's eyes were bright, honest, slow, careful, with respect and boundaries. And honesty. Always honesty. She smiled. Then, okay, let's try. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Amara helped Mrs. Clark with the laundry, read to Margaret for an hour, tried to settle back into her routine, but everything felt different now, lighter, like the weight she'd been carrying had finally lifted. Around noon, Miles showed up. He found Ethan and Amara in the library, sorting through books Margaret wanted donated. Well, Miles grinned. The man of the hour and the woman who made him human. Ethan threw a paperback at him. Shut up. I'm Miles Carter. Miles extended his hand to Amara. The friend who's been telling him he's an idiot for weeks. Amara shook it. Amara Bennett. Nice to finally meet you properly. Oh, I like her. Miles dropped into a chair. She's got backbone. You're going to need that with this one. I'm right here, Ethan protested. I know, that's why I'm saying it. Miles pulled out his phone. I have good news. The tabloid that posted the fake invoice story, their editor just issued a formal retraction. Turns out someone did pay them to run it. And when our lawyers started asking questions, they folded immediately. Amara's breath caught. Really? Really? The story's being pulled. They're issuing an apology. Miles looked satisfied. Won't undo all the damage, but it's a start. Was it Lydia? Ethan asked. Can't prove it. But the payment came from an account linked to that shady event planner your housekeeper mentioned, and we all know who uses him. Miles shrugged. She's covering her tracks. But the truth is coming out. Amara felt something loosen in her chest. The vindication wouldn't fix everything. People would still talk, still judge, but at least the lies were being exposed. Thank you, she said quietly. Don't thank me. Thank your man here. He's the one who refused to let it go. Miles stood. Now I'm going to find some lunch. You two carry on with your adorable book sorting. He left, whistling. Ethan looked at Amara. How do you feel? Relieved, scared, hopeful. She smiled. All of it at once. Yeah. He moved closer. Me too. They went back to sorting books, but every so often their hands would brush, their eyes would meet, and something warm would pass between them. That afternoon, Mrs. Clark took Amara to see the guest cottage. It sat at the edge of the property, nestled among trees. Small but charming. White walls, blue shutters. A porch that looked out toward the ocean. It needs work, Mrs. Clark admitted. Hasn't been used in years. But the bones are good. They went inside. Dust everywhere. Old furniture covered in sheets. But Amara could see the potential. A cozy living room. A tiny kitchen. A bedroom with windows that would catch the morning light. It's perfect, she breathed. Mr. Dalton said to fix it up however you want. New paint, new furniture, whatever you need. I can help with the work. I'm good with my hands. Mrs. Clark smiled. I know you are. That's why you're going to be just fine. Over the next few days they cleaned the cottage together. Amara scrubbed floors, washed windows. Mrs. Clark brought linens and dishes from the main house. Mr. Reyes fixed a broken step on the porch. Ethan helped too. He was terrible at painting, got more on himself than the walls, but he showed up every day with coffee and determination. "I'm making it worse," he said, looking at a particularly streaky section. "A little." Amara took the brush from him. "Here, like this." She guided his hand, showed him the proper technique. Their fingers touched, paint smeared between them. He looked at her, really looked at her. "I love this." "Painting?" "No, this. Being with you, building something together." Her heart squeezed. "Me too." They painted the rest of the wall side by side, making a mess, laughing, creating something new. A week later, the cottage was ready. Simple, but beautiful. Amara's books were on the shelves. Her clothes were in the closet. Fresh flowers sat on the kitchen table. She stood on the porch at sunset. Her own space, her own home. Ethan appeared on the path, carrying 2 mugs. "Coffee delivery," he said. "You didn't have to. I wanted to." He climbed the steps, handed her a mug. "How does it feel?" "Good. Really good." She sipped the coffee. It was perfect. He'd been paying attention to how she liked it. "Thank you for all of this. You deserve your own space, your own life." They stood together on the porch. The ocean was calm. The sky was turning pink and gold. "I've been thinking," Amara said, "about school. I looked into some programs. There's a community college about an hour away. They have night classes." "That's wonderful. I could start in the spring. Keep working here part-time, save money." She glanced at him. "It'll be a lot. I won't have as much free time. Then we'll make the time we have count." He set down his mug, took her hand. "I'm not going anywhere. This isn't some sprint. It's a marathon. We have time." "You're sure? Because it might be years before I finish school, before I really know what I want to do." "I'm sure." His voice was steady, certain. "We'll figure it out together." She leaned against him. He wrapped his arms around her. They watched the sun sink into the ocean. "I never thought I could have this," Amara admitted. "Someone who sees me, really sees me. Not the uniform, not the job, just me." "I see you," Ethan murmured. "I see how strong you are. How kind, how brave. You changed my whole life, Amara. You made me want to be better. You were always good. You just needed to believe it." They stood there as stars began appearing. 2 people who'd found each other against all odds. 2 people choosing to build something real. Margaret's health improved over the following weeks. The doctor said it was remarkable. Margaret said it was because she had something to live for again. "My son is happy," she told Amara one morning. "Really happy. I can see it in his eyes." They were in the garden. Amara was helping Margaret deadhead roses. "I'm happy too," Amara said. "I know, dear. You glow with it." Margaret clipped a faded bloom. "You're good for each other. You balance him, and he gives you space to grow." "Were you scared when you first fell in love?" "Terrified." Margaret smiled. "But love requires courage, requires vulnerability. The people who say they're never scared are lying, or they've never really loved." "How did you know it was right?" "Because even when it was hard, I wanted to stay, wanted to fight for it." She looked at Amara. "Do you want to stay?" "Yes." "Then it's right." 3 months passed. Fall turned to winter. The estate prepared for the holidays. Amara enrolled in her first college class, Introduction to Business Management. She studied at night in her cottage. Ethan would bring her tea and kiss her forehead and let her work. On weekends, they took long walks on the beach, cooked dinner together in her tiny kitchen, talked about everything and nothing. He told her about his childhood, the pressure to be perfect, the loneliness of always performing. She told him about her parents, growing up with little money, but lots of love. Her father teaching her to fix things, her mother reading poetry every night. They learned each other, slowly, carefully. There were hard moments too, days when gossip still circulated, when someone would recognize them in town and stare. When Amara wondered if this was really sustainable, but they talked through it, held each other, chose to stay. One cold December morning, Amara found an envelope under her cottage door, her name written in elegant script. Inside was a check, a large one, and a note. "For your education fund. Consider it back pay for all the light you've brought into our lives." With gratitude and love, Margaret Amara's eyes filled with tears. She walked to the main house and found Margaret in the library. "I can't accept this," she said, holding out the check. "You can and you will." Margaret's tone left no room for argument. "You've earned every penny. Not just through work, but through kindness, through being yourself. It's too much. It's not nearly enough. Margaret stood, took Amara's hands. You're family now, whether you marry my son or not, whether you stay working here or not. You're part of this family, and we take care of our family. Amara hugged her, held on tight. Thank you. No, dear, thank you. Christmas morning arrived clear and cold. The estate sparkled with decorations. A massive tree stood in the foyer. Lights glowed in every window. Amara woke early in her cottage, made coffee, watched the sunrise. There was a knock at her door. Ethan stood on the porch. He wore a thick sweater and held a wrapped gift. His cheeks were pink from the cold. "Merry Christmas," he said. "Merry Christmas." She pulled him inside. "You're freezing. Worth it." He kissed her. Soft and sweet. "I wanted to see you first thing. You saw me last night. I know. But today's special." He handed her the gift. "Open it." She unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a journal, leather-bound. Beautiful. Her initials embossed on the cover. "I noticed your old one was almost full," Ethan said. "Thought you might need a new one, for new dreams, new plans." Amara traced the letters. "It's perfect. Look inside the front cover." She opened it. He'd written something in careful handwriting. "For Amara, may every page hold courage, truth and joy. You've taught me what real strength looks like. Thank you for choosing to stay. All my love, Ethan." She looked up at him, tears in her eyes. "I love it. I love you." The words slipped out before she could stop them. Ethan's face went soft, joyful. "Yeah? Yeah. Good. Because I love you too. Have for a while now. Just waiting for the right moment to say it." She set down the journal and kissed him, deep and sure and full of promise. "Best Christmas ever," she murmured against his lips. "We're just getting started." They spent the day with Margaret and the staff. Mrs. Clark made a feast. Mr. Reyes played guitar. Even the nurse joined in, singing carols slightly off-key. It was loud and chaotic, and perfect. That evening, Amara and Ethan walked the cliff path, the same one where they'd shared their first kiss. The ocean was dark and endless below them. "I've been thinking," Ethan said, "about the future. Yeah? I don't want to rush anything. We're still learning each other, still growing." He stopped walking, turned to face her. "But I want you to know, this isn't temporary for me. You're not a phase. You're the person I want to build a life with, even if it takes years, even if I'm still in school, even if it's messy and complicated, especially then." He cupped her face in his hands. "I'm not looking for easy. I'm looking for real, and this is the most real thing I've ever had." Amara felt tears slip down her cheeks. "I want to build a life with you too, but I need to do it my way, on my terms, as your equal. I wouldn't have it any other way." "Then we have a deal." They sealed it with a kiss, long and slow and full of promise. Above them, stars scattered across the sky. Below them, waves crashed steady and eternal against the rocks. Two people who'd found each other across impossible divides. Two people choosing love over fear, truth over appearances, growth over stagnation. Two people building something that would last. The next morning, Amara woke in her cottage. Sunlight poured through the windows. Her new journal sat on the nightstand. She opened it, picked up a pen, thought for a moment. Then she wrote, "New year, new dreams, new courage. I used to think being safe meant being invisible, but I was wrong. Real safety comes from being seen, being known, being loved for exactly who you are. I found home in the last place I expected, not in walls or rooms, but in the steady presence of someone who chose to see me, who chose to grow with me. This is just the beginning." She closed the journal, smiled to herself. There was a gentle knock at the door. She already knew who it was. "Come in." Ethan entered with 2 steaming mugs. He'd gotten good at making coffee over the months. He set them on her small kitchen table. "Morning," he said. His hair was messy. His smile was soft. "Morning." They sat together at the table, sipping coffee, planning their day. Through the window, the ocean glittered in the morning light. The estate stood solid on the cliffs. Margaret would be waiting for her morning tea. Mrs. Clark would be prepping breakfast. The world would keep turning. But here, in this small cottage, Amara had found something she'd spent her whole life searching for. Peace, purpose, partnership, love. She reached across the table, took Ethan's hand. He squeezed back. No words needed. Outside, the morning light grew stronger. A new day, a new chapter, a new story being written, one choice at a time. And this time, Amara was writing it herself. Not as someone invisible, not as someone less than, but as someone seen, someone valued, someone loved, as herself, exactly as she was meant to be. 1 year later, the guest cottage was different now. Bookshelves lined the walls, textbooks mixed with poetry collections. A small desk sat by the window where Amara studied most evenings. She was halfway through her degree, business management with a minor in non-profit leadership. She discovered she loved it. The challenge, the growth, the future it promised. She still worked at the estate part-time, but now she also volunteered at a local shelter, taught budgeting classes to women trying to rebuild their lives, used everything she'd learned, from her father's lessons about fixing things to her own experiences of resilience, to help others. Ethan had expanded his business, but differently now. He focused on ethical partnerships, fair wages, supporting local communities. Miles said he'd gone soft. Ethan said he'd finally learned what mattered. Margaret was thriving. She'd started hosting monthly garden parties, invited people from all walks of life, mixed socialites with staff, artists with investors, created a space where lines blurred and people simply connected. On this particular evening, Amara stood on her porch, watching the sunset, thinking about how far she'd come. Footsteps crunched on the gravel path. Ethan appeared. He'd been in town all day for meetings. He looked tired but happy. "Hey you," he said. "Hey yourself." He climbed the steps, pulled her close, kissed her like he'd been waiting all day for this moment. "How was your day?" she asked. "Good. Long, but good." He rested his forehead against hers. "Missed you. Missed you too." They stood together as the sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold. The same ocean, the same cliffs, but everything was different now. "I love our life," Amara said quietly. "Me too. Even the hard parts? Especially the hard parts. They made us stronger." She smiled. "We did it. We actually did it. Built something real? Yeah, we did." He pulled back, looked at her with those grey eyes that had once been so cold, but now held nothing but warmth. "And we're just getting started." On the horizon, the sun dipped below the water. Stars began appearing one by one. The world settled into that peaceful space between day and night. 2 mugs of coffee sat cooling on the porch railing. 2 people stood together, hands intertwined. 2 shadows merged into one. One path forward. One story still being written. One love built on the only foundation that ever really mattered: truth, courage, and the willingness to be seen. The end.